Wow, this has been a long time since I decided to shitpost this hard, really, ever since the time I said Yomi could realistically win the entire tournament of power by being incredibly smart. And the series is technically back. Except this is a lot more realistic and understandable to grasp. See, Dragon Ball was my beginner anime. Everyone's knowledge of their beginner anime is incredibly packed. Let's say I know the ins and outs of the entire Dragon Ball Z anime. The Dragon Ball anime? No, not as much. I don't really think anyone doing these versus debates even bothers to actively go out searching for Dragon Ball filler. Therefore, I am quite the loser. Where exactly am I going with this? In a chat, I once stated that I wholeheartedly believe Dragon Ball Z and Vegito can beat Battle of Gods Super Saiyan God Goku. In a world where everyone hyperanalyzes the new material but don't really bother to read the old, folks like me are rare as shit. This video is not going to hypothesize a Super Saiyan 2 or 3 Vegito fighting Beerus in this versus debate, because not only was it never shown in either source material, but Goku wouldn't even know how strong that'd be, and neither would Vegeta. They'd have big ideas, but the reason I have to say this is because lots of people use it for either side, making it really unfair and highballing this shit all to whoever they like the most. Also, I am not the all-knowing Dragon Ball Messiah here to deliver you from Dragon Ball Super falsehoods, because clearly you are 100% wrong. No, you are allowed to have your own opinion and fan calculations that Super Saiyan God can beat Vegito. That's alright. Discussion is okay. Don't shove the conclusions of this video down other people's throats, even on other videos. You are toxic as shit if you do that. Let's start by saying that we all can agree that Battle of Gods takes place in between the Blue Saga and the end of Z, right? Of the manga. I'm entirely under the presumption that unlike other continuities of the same story, Goku's been training his butt off the whole time for 4 years. I mean, that's totally a Goku thing to do. Except he's not really dead anymore, so he can't spend all that time training either. We could say that he's about 50% stronger than what he was in the manga Blue Saga, meaning that his Super Saiyan 3 form, reasonably, could end up being able to contend with a lot more foes than he could before, which was basically being able to fight evenly with Kid Buu and maybe one-shot innocent Buu, if he was really trying. This also fits into the statement that Goku in his base form still couldn't beat 100% full power Frieza, even though we all know that Goku's mastered Super Saiyan completely makes Frieza look like a joke. It could be 2 times Goku's Blue Saga self, but we don't even know if Tomo gave Goku a gravity chamber in his house, or if a gravity chamber can go past 500 times Earth's gravity yet. You could say that, but that'd be highly speculative, and besides, Vegito is the one who trains in there and casually does 150 times Earth's gravity. But because I feel like it'd be reasonable, let's say that it's a happy medium. 75% stronger than Goku's Blue Saga self. That'd be enough to put him to be able to beat Super Buu. Maybe fight decently against Buu Piccolo absorbed in Super Saiyan 3. So, well, Goku's no joke and could potentially be equally as strong as Ultimate Goten now. Canon Ultimate Goten. That's really freaking strong. And Beerus shitstomps Goku and everyone else in the same level of power. With chopsticks and finger flicks. Judging how this is a Dragon Ball Z movie and generally, in this part of the manga, people who are around 50% or above can beat the crap out of anyone else and be unfazed, and Beerus can finger flick Goku. That just tells you how strong suppressed Beerus is, like, at least 25 times stronger than Ultimate Goten level Goku. Or an unbelievable amount of good ki control. That's like how Frieza was toying with Vegeta in the Namek Saga when he went into his final form, still suppressed by the way, and whipped him with his tail. That's how much of a power move that is. Apparently Goku thinks that Vegito couldn't beat Beerus. However, there's some holes. First off, Goku has gotten a bit stronger than Vegeta already, so, well, we don't know if the boost will even work the same as it did in the Blue Saga, or less, or more. Does the rival boost get negated now that Vegeta sees Goku as number 1 now? Second, Goku's completely dazed, so there's a chance his judgment is impaired and maybe it would surpass what he's seen of Beerus, who has an energy he can't even sense anyway, so how the hell would he even know? I get that he probably could have sensed his own power within Vegito, so I kind of see what Goku's thinking. But, point is, the Vegito we might see might not even be the same multiplier like Vegito is, like how Kibito Kai fused together and didn't even do anything against Buu got links absorbed, as in not even showed up. That's how bad the matchup was. Even Bien was able to hold off Buu in that form for a bit. We all know that Battle of Gods base Vegito would, in all likeliness, get locked the same way as Goku did. I mean, there's multiple factors. Vegito would do, like, 2 times as better, because he has the battle experience of 2 fighters, but I don't think he can get over that number crunch without transforming. But can he, when he goes Super Saiyan? We don't know, because, for some strange reason, we don't know how strong Super Saiyan God actually is. And you have Super Rage Vegeta to actually wombo comboing Beerus. So, well, we got an odd situation here. Could Super Vegito actually put up a good fight? We'll never know. However, Super Saiyan God is interesting, because now Goku can actually tell how strong Beerus is. Not a single comment about how maybe Vegito could have actually did this after all or confirming what he said earlier. Instead, he doesn't like getting power that's not his own. It's strong, as crap obviously, because Beerus is having a real fight. Probably not even close to Beerus still, but it's a good fight, and probably the strongest match he's had in the universe. Plus you have the God Key still being in Goku and God-infused Mastered Super Saiyan able to still keep up with Beerus. Don't worry, we won't have to compare if it's permanent or not, because, well, that's after the story, so, well, point being, God Goku is fucking strong. Is he Manga Super Vegito level? Yes, possibly above that, because we'll never know. Toriyama isn't the kind of guy to do a Nova where Super Vegito fights Beerus right out of the blue. What the heck is the reasonable multiplier for Super Saiyan God? Because Mastered Super Saiyan is, by all means, a stronger and more refined Super Saiyan, I'll say it's 100 times. In order for Goku to be able to contend with a less suppressed Beerus, whose previously suppressed power is at least 25 times stronger than he is as a Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan God, as a minimum, would have to be a 100 times boost from Super Saiyan 3, meaning he's exactly 100 Ultimate Goddens, and 200 Super Saiyan 3 Godlinks' worth of power. That's a massive amount of power for one singular transformation. Let me restate this. Goku, who can't even beat full power Frieza in base, is able to fight the God of Destruction enough to impress him with his 80,000 times multiplier. But here's where the calculations for Battle of Gods end. Because now, we're in the middle of calculating M Vegito. Yes, we are using filler, but no movies other than Dead Zone, because honestly Dead Zone doesn't do anything to the plot, and if we use any other movies, literally any other movie, this becomes a spite match for either fighter. One thing to note, immediately right out of the gate, is that anime versions of manga Dragon Ball Z characters have more stamina. How much more they have depends on whether or not a new arc was going to appear at the time, such as Namek Super Goku being able to fight with full power Frieza for a lot more strikes, sometimes characters being a bit stronger than others. First major change of note, Garlic Jr. Saga happened, so, at some point, God and got his NK from it. Not enough to where it'd matter immediately, but you know how big even a 5% increase will go on down further. I'll say it was like a 10%. Also, Cell apparently can tank Destructo discs without even trying in the end. So, well, there's a bit of a shocker. Godin also managed to kill 8 Cell JRS instead of 7, so, well, bigger stamina, who, not to mention, but we have Cell JRS deflecting final flashes from an even stronger Ascended Super Vegeta. Maybe the Z fighters are stronger, maybe the Cell JRS are stronger, it's all up to interpretation, but either way, this has a purpose. This isn't just pointless fluff. Even the Kamada Neo clash was much longer, with Cell actually having to have implied to get the upper hand a lot more times. Stronger anime Super Perfect Cell? Meh, I'll let you decide. In the Dragon Ball Z anime, apparently Super Saiyan kind of falls off without a big rage boost, to where it's only, like, 25x instead of 50x like in the manga. Does this mean the Saiyan's base forms have that missing 2 times? Probably yes. This might be totally insane to imply, but Goku's filler adventures might actually have gotten him a fair bit stronger than what his manga counterpart would have been. It's not much, and considering Piccolo in the Saiyan saga was able to lift pyramids, well, it's very possible that missing 2 times multiplier is accounted for. So, Mastered Super Saiyan, in the anime, is basically the same as just normal Super Saiyan, meaning the main cast, in average, is stronger than the manga cast. Also Android 19 is actually able to fight Super Saiyan Goku, who knew? The Buu saga is where everything culminates. First off, Goku and Vegeta's Majin fight was longer, and, you know, Goku's actually a lot stronger than he was in the manga, because of the whole off-road adventure thing, and a few filler scenes. This could mean that Vegeta is a shit ton stronger too, because he's keeping up with a Goku that was able to dodge some of Blue Godlink's absorbed punches and kicks in Super Saiyan 3, something that never happened in the manga. We all know that Super Blue and Godlinks were having an even fight, actually a slightly more intense fight, and we all know that Dragon Ball characters in the anime can talk at the speed of light, as stupid as that sounds. Remember that Zenkai Godwin got? Yep, he's stronger here, though probably not by much. What he does have is more fighting experience, since Cyborg Tomo and Garlic Jr. showed up. Godlinks also could be a fair bit more talented as a fighter, because his components did fight Mr. Popo and knew what they were training for, basically Super Saiyan 3. So, stronger Blue Godlinks and Godwin seems pretty likely. Godlinks is stronger than manga Godlinks. Just thought I'd make this clear. Godwin is at minimum, to Godlinks is to be able to kick the shit out of Super Blue. Super Blue absorbs both Godlinks and Piccolo. Piccolo, who also had longer fights against Android 17 in Cell and has been implied to be training non-stop, and also was actually somewhere close to Cell Games Ascended Super Vegeta during that time period. He probably is at least mastered Super Goku in the Cell Games now. Point is, stronger Piccolo and slightly stronger Godlinks. Blue Godlinks absorbed is now at least to Godlinks and an eighth, and fighting Godwin equally until the mind games start kicking in. The implication that SSJ3 Goku, at all, can dodge Blue Godlinks absorbed, means that Goku is actually just under Battle of Gods Goku, except actually able to beat Frieza in base. Funny how that works. I'm intentionally not using the anime scene, where Goku tells Vegeta to put on the earring, while Vegeta actually attempts to fight Blue and with Goku. Very hesitantly, joins in, because, well, you know where that leads, and considering Dragon Ball Z power scaling, that actually puts SSJ to Vegeta and Goku together above Battle of Gods SSJ3 Goku, because not only is Blue stronger, but everyone who makes up Blue is too, meaning this ride out Blue Godwin absorbed should be leaps and bounds ahead of Canon Ultimate Godwin, at a very, very generous minimum, 40% stronger than Blue was at that point in the manga. Fusion multiplier is completely different for some reason, because base Vegito claps the shit out of this pretty stronger Blue in the same way Super Vegito did in the manga. And then he goes Super Saiyan on top of that and makes the whole thing a meme. Yes, he even resists internal attacks from Blue, and the only time he remotely had to be serious at all is when Blue was going to completely shatter the universe, which surprisingly isn't in the manga, to try a bit. Ironically kind of how like Beerus had to get serious for a bit against Rage Vegeta. See the similar point? In this timeline, we can say that the Bakuru are permanent, because Old Kai wasn't an Among Us imposter, and that, well, bad air, so basically no defusing. Not to mention later on, SSJ to Goku actually fights Kid Buu. And it isn't a one-sided, incredibly long stomp like Vegeta's fight in the same form against Buu for some reason. Poor Vegeta getting beat up like that. Okay, now down to the actual fight. Super Vegito vs God Goku. Of course with no Bloodlust and everyone acting in character. Because Bloodlust isn't fun, it's just a mindless number and feet crunch. Base to base, we know who's stronger. It's really obvious. Anime Vegito is way above manga Blue, so he has quite the power advantage, and Vegito has a lower Super Saiyan multiplier than manga Goku, so only a 50x boost. Battle of Gods Goku can fight in space, and seems to take the fight rather seriously, while Vegito, in the fandom, is portrayed to fuck around a lot and comically taunt opponents. In reality, he probably fights more like Vegeta with the expertise and training of Goku, and, well, to brains. Say that Vegito decides to fuck around and deliberately taunt Goku. That'd actually be really smart, because Vegito is only, realistically, 50% stronger than Goku in this battle. Yes, I know he could be much higher, and so can Goku, but I want a cool fight out of this. Goku either messes up, or actually feels challenged by Vegito's bravo. And when he messes up, Vegito can strike rather well. Can Vegito casually fight with his feet like he did in both versions? Probably not in the scenario I have in my head. Once Goku stops thinking like he should, Vegito has the fight in the bag. However, because Vegito doesn't have God Ki, and Goku is really new to God Ki, Vegito might actually take a few hits, until he decides to get serious, and those few hits might be enough to actually weaken him to the point, where it's a much more even fight. Vegito, however, has more techniques than Battle of Gods Goku, and since the Super Kaioken is actually an filler, if Vegito ever felt like he didn't have a chance in hell, he can turn that on, for a brief second and end up turning the tide with a punch. If Vegito is serious right off the bat, that's actually quite scary to think about. We're talking Goku having to deal with Keyblades for the first time, spam, a lot more stamina than what he's even used to manga Vegito having. However, because Goku knows the strength of his opponent right away, he can think of ways to counter it, and if lucky enough, he can get a win. Can Vegito lose this fight? Absolutely. If Goku's first attack is enough to knock Vegito around enough, there's actually a possibility that Vegito won't even use the Super Kaioken, or horribly miss the one strike, and has his body revert to base. If Goku reverts during the fight, Super Vegito wins. If Vegito reverts, God Goku wins. I'll say the chances of a Vegito victory in this fight are about 65%, a Goku victory 30%, and a tie perfectly possible, 5%. Those are just how I see things, because Vegito does have the thought advantage. It'd be a lot closer if Vegito wasn't two people fused into one. Do I think either of them can beat Beerus? Fucking no, unless you took Toriyama's scale quote 100% seriously, which is odd choice. Then you get your chance of an anime Vegito victory. Otherwise, gets horribly shit-stomped, but a better fight than Super Saiyan God. I was intentionally being fair to both sides, actually downplaying my own calculations to make sure no one got shafted. But let's talk about the unfair scenarios. If you were to give anime Vegito the same multiplier that manga mastered Super Saiyan has, it's not a fair fight anymore. Same too, if you gave anime Vegito Super Saiyan 2 or Super Saiyan 3. Poor Goku can't do anything, and I'd feel awful for doing that to the coolest form of Dragon Ball Super. If you gave Battle of Gods Goku the anime Super Saiyan scaling, also a horrible outcome in my eyes. And this is, if I didn't restrain myself and highballed Battle of Gods Goku's power by an extra 25% too. Not doing a single other thing to Vegito. Also, don't put Wrath of the Dragon Vegito anywhere near any God Goku, because that'd be Goku abuse. I'm sorry, but the Dragon Fist is way too fucking strong to have a fun, fair, balanced fight. It's pure spite in Vegito's favor. You'd actually have to put Super Goku Blue in the Goku Black Saga against him to even make it remotely fair, and only past then can Dragon Ball Super Goku compete with the Dragon Fist. Assuming that Vegito can't go Super Saiyan 2 or 3, because, if he can, he might even be able to cheese Goku's Kaioken with it. And considering how stupid Dragon Ball Super Goku is too, Vegito might have a much higher chance of winning than you think. However, there's an unfair outcome, if you assume Battle of Gods Vegito is the same as Blue Saga Vegito multiplier-wise, and gave him even just Super Saiyan 2. In that case, God Goku would mop the floor with generous calculation Super Vegito, and he'd need Super Saiyan 3 to even contend with God Goku. It's actually a really good debate to have. Stuff that goes either way can lead to spite matches or a really good genuinely fun encounter. I know people expected me to calculate and downplay the Goku is universal feat, but that's unfair to Battle of Gods, who, in the movie version I was using, was the second strongest God Goku, and did absorb God Ki. Goku in the movie, and the anime of Dragon Ball Super, at this point of time, are universal, like how Super Vegito in the anime is by scaling. Just not casual universal like some people like to believe, or that the feat is an outlier. Believe me, it takes a lot to reach that level of power, and I don't think even Mastered Ultra Instinct can wipe out a universe by dodging the expansion of that same universe. Actually, you know what? If you want to see that video, and you thought a text-to-speech voice debating a versus match with zero editing is good how to Tomo 101 content, leave a like. Seriously, I can do this all day, if I wanted to. But, no really, you don't have to. I know you YouTubers beg for likes and subs all the time, but I fucking hate that, so, do what you want to do, as long as it's not going to make me wonder if you are a sped. Do not mind the potential salty fans from both sides who were angry I wasn't completely bashing Super this video, or downplaying the anime. We just have to treat them respectfully, like, perhaps have fun imagining what the fight would look like in their head. Personally, that's the whole fun in doing stuff like this. I'm Tomo, signing out.